Hi, I'm Spencer Colosso, and this is a video about my design process for my logo submission for Spaced Challenge.
Space.
Got my lucky hat on, got my lucky shirt, favorite logo of all time, Mexico 68. Let's very briefly get into this brief, pun intended. Alright, so basically Spaced is a fake company set in the future. It's a travel company providing the quote-unquote ultimate experience for outer space travel. Their destinations are the moon, Mars, Europa. One thing they really wanted to touch on, or Dan Petty really wanted to touch on, is capturing that feel of Virgin America over, say, an airline like United, while still retaining the cheekiness of Southwest. But at the same time, they want to exude experience, reliability, technical proficiency. I mean, he brings up Elon Musk, he brings up Tesla, he brings up SpaceX, he brings up science fiction. So all of those things are going to need to be taken into account when designing this logo. Words that describe Spaced is awesome, tech, ultimate experience, high-end, future, quick, Elon Musk. Think like Tesla, Audi, think Nike for spacesuits, think Apple Watch, iMac Pro, Stormtrooper, as far as like a color thing would go. More Coke than Pepsi. Quick shout out to Dan Petty for really nailing down this brief. I think it really goes to show that designing within constraints actually really can strengthen your design, rather than just having a blank white sheet without any instruction. Great job, Dan. Thank you so much for the good brief. Yeah, so basically my first thought was listen to the brief all the way through, get it into your subconscious, get it in your head. Then I listened to it again, like while I was just driving to the grocery store, to really just try and like reinforce the themes that Dan Petty is talking about. And then one more time before I actually started any kind of concepting or work on the logo, I listened to it one more time all the way through, just to really kind of make sure I got rid of any sort of just like naturally occurring biases in my own head as far as what I think a space logo should look like, because I think part of being a good designer is being a good listener. So I really wanted to listen to what Dan Petty wanted for this company. So now on to concepting. Basically, my main goal here is to strike the perfect balance between that Virgin America, that Southwest feel, fun for everyone, inviting, kind of sexy in a way, but also at the same time be able to achieve a balance between that and a company that looks like a tech company. It looks reliable. It looks like they fly to space. They're technically proficient. It's got to have some of that sci-fi element to it, in addition to the fun Virgin, fun Southwest feel. So my goal right off the bat for this project is to strike that perfect balance between those themes. So first off, I knew that I wanted something simple, something that I could just hand draw myself. So I threw a grid down. Did a little bit of math, made sure the grid was proportionate and something I could work with. And then I just kind of went through and drew, these just rectangles, one for each letter, and made sure they were all spaced out evenly and they were all the same size, and that would be the grid, that would be the canvas that I would be able to work in to make the different characters SPACED. So once I nailed down those proportions, I just, with the pen tool, went and drew something, kind of geometric, but I didn't want it to be sharp. I wanted it to be soft and round because it's supposed to be for everyone. It's not like an alien spacecraft that's gonna come attack a moon base or something. It's supposed to be like a travel company, so you don't want it, at least in my opinion, I don't think that you really want it to have these sharp edges to it, because that's sort of like synonymous with, like, I don't know, like video games that have like bad guy aliens, or like the movie Aliens. You know, the Aliens logo from the movie it's got this, like, it's very sci-fi, but it's got this like eerie feel to it, and I think that's something that you want to stay away from for this project. So first and foremost, of course, all good logos begin with sketching out ideas on pen and paper, or pencil and paper. So I just kind of throughout the day, something popped in my head, sketch it down. I was at work, had got an idea, sketched it down, just thought about it over and over, and I really just kept going back to the same place, and it was just trying to make use of hearts. And what I think that does for the logo is it's going to give it that friendly feel, and it's going to really help to capture that Virgin Southwest feel. So I nailed down some different heart designs and ended up arriving to this. So I ended up straightening out the edges on this D, because that would enable me to create this lockup with these hearts along with the logo type. So I did that, and then I ultimately decided that it was just making the logo way too, clear space included, it was just making the logo way too like awkwardly rectangular in shape. So I thought that, you know, making the lockup there was just throwing off all this negative space that you can see right here. It's just kind of like, I mean, it looks cool the way it locks up, but there's just way too much wasted space right here. So I ultimately decided on this right here, and the way the D goes into this, you know, in between these hearts, it feels like it's like a spacecraft shooting into the hearts. I just think it works nicely. So the whole concept behind the arrangement of the hearts is each heart is representative of each of the original travel destinations that the company Space offered in its inception. So we got the moon, and these are all relative in size. We got the moon, we have Mars, we have the moon, and then we have Europa, and they're all relative in size and in color as well, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So you can see down here, I'm just kind of messing with some stuff. I know he said not to do these orbits, but I just wanted to see how it looked. Definitely decided it's not what I had in my head. Wasn't going in the direction I wanted. Skipped that. You know, then there's this other idea that I think a lot of people touched on in addition to me, and it's the concept of this D being an actual craft and the E being the thrust behind the craft. And I think that even though a lot of other people did choose this concept in their final submission for a logo or a website, I think it's way too good to stay away from. I think there's something really strong there, and I felt like it would be foolish not to really explore that, and I ended up using it in my final concept. So we eventually arrive at this. It's got the rocket, it's got the thrust behind it, then it's got, you know, the hearts representing the original 3 destinations that space offers at its inception. You know, Mars, Moon, Europa. Once again, all relative in size to, you know, the real size of the planets, the destinations. And so once I nailed this down, I pretty much went back and looked at everything else that I did and just decided this was way too strong. We got symmetry and the weight of all the strokes, from, you know, all the characters to the thrusters to the D, the little craft here, and then the hearts. It's all the same weight. It's all very balanced. I just think it feels good. The negative space is starting to really come together and really work well together. But it doesn't have the you know, sci-fi reliability experienced aspect to it yet. So I continued to mess with some negative space, and I think I moved the E a little closer, moved everything a little closer, ended up moving the planets away a little bit because I felt like it was just kind of like taking away from the logo type. So now that we have this solid comp going, I just wanted to come through and make sure that the themes of like a reliable space travel company comes through in the logo, in addition to the friendliness of Virgin Southwest. So we start here. Then we're moving on. Move the spacing, or move the spacing between the hearts out a little bit, just to give it some breathing room. It also helped when printing small. So come through, take this little chunk of the P out, create some awesome negative space right here. It just really like starts to lock everything together. I noticed a lot of people pretty much just copying the A from Tesla and throwing it into their space logo, and that's definitely something I did not want to do, but I definitely did want to take advantage of something that you could do to the A to give it that sci-fi space travel tech company feel. So I just chopped a little bit of it off here. The amount that I chopped off is 1/2 of the thickness of the stroke. So there's definitely design to it. There's reasoning behind it. Then I pulled back the top part of the C a little bit to allow these thrusters to kind of like move into the space of the C. Just really gives it its own feel, it's starting to really feel like its own logo. And I think it just really reinforces this action in the E, and it just reinforces this like movement of this like craft, which is the D flying towards these planets, which is the heart, or are the hearts, I mean. I experimented a little bit with geometric hearts, but I ultimately decided that it ended up just looking like a mistake. Like at a small scale, it looks like pixelated. On my screen, and when printed on a business card, it's going to look like you hand did it with a marker. It does not look precise at all. So I ended up getting rid of that idea, even though it does kind of reflect this D a little bit, because the D is a little geometric. So ultimately, this is what I arrived at. I changed the weight of these hearts to really kind of bring out the negative space in the center of the hearts, because it's a little bit lacking up here, as you can see. And yeah, this is the final composition for the logo that I ended up creating. So I experimented a lot with color. As you can see, this is like one of maybe like 10 files that I had where I was just trying different color combos on the hearts, on the logo type too. It was a little bit tough initially because I wasn't sure if I should go for like a realistic kind of color. I ended up like pulling these colors off of images of the planet, like got this off an image of Mars, this off an image of the moon, that off an image of Europa, but then but I noticed that in Dan's critique, his first round of feedback, he actually brought up this logo, and he said it was one of his favorite logos because of the color and how it felt like it's a company for everyone, yet it still touches on the themes of the destinations, the planets, and it feels like it's got a science fiction thing going on with it. So that really kind of inspired me to play to my audience and not just take Dan's feedback for granted, and incorporate some kind of color theme that would also exude this, like what he described as like a universal feel, or a feel that welcomes everyone. So then I started experimenting with Roy G. Biv, the color spectrum, just across the whole entire logo. And I think what that does is it definitely plays off of what Dan's initial feedback was for that logo, but also it plays into the theme of the light spectrum, which is a very useful tool that astronomers use to study stars. I mean, like, they can tell just all kinds of crazy things about distant stars and planets from the light spectrums that they can detect off of it. So it definitely ties into the science behind space travel and just the cosmos in general, in addition to what Dan Petty's liking. I think it's definitely important to play to your audience. If you didn't watch Dan Petty's initial feedback round, then I think you kind of made a mistake, because he gave a lot of good information on what he was looking for in that, and I'm definitely playing to my audience here, and I think that is it's kind of risky because it seems counterintuitive, but I think it's the right move, because like I said, be a good designer, you gotta be a good listener in addition. So ultimately I decided on this frequency of the light spectrum. I definitely wanted the yellow to be in the thrusters, in the E, to just kind of reinforce that theme. And I also adjusted it to be, super legible on black and white. And ultimately ended up deciding to go with this. And I think it's really strong. I'm really happy with it as far as a color theme would go for the logo, in addition to black and white. And also the color of each heart is representative of the Mars, the Moon, and Europa, relatively. So now I want to talk about how I'm positioning my interpretation of this brand within the contest itself. It seems to me that everyone is positioning their logo as like a reliable company. They want it to feel like a sci-fi company, a space shuttle company, and one that has experience. But no one's really touching on what Dan said he really wanted in addition to that, and that's like the Virgin America feel, the Southwest feel. It's for everyone ages 25 to whatever, and no one really is seeming to touch on that with any of their logo submissions. So as far as my submission, I'm positioning myself sort of on the outside of everyone else, which I think is a risk. But I think it's a risk worth taking because it's sticking to the brief, and it's not just doing what I want to do intuitively. It's actually positioning myself in a way that's going to stand me out from everyone else, and at the same time remember everything from the brief that he stated. So I think that's a pretty smart move. I think it's a little risky because it is different, and I'm not really sure how the judges are gonna see that, but I think it's a risk worth taking. So yeah, that's how I'm positioning myself in this competition. So all in all, to conclude, I think there was a lot of great submissions. There's some amazing UIs for desktop and mobile. There's some great logos. Shout out to Dan and Epicurence for putting this contest on. It was a lot of fun. I really did have a lot of fun doing it. It was a great time. Thanks for putting it on. I really look forward to seeing more contests like this in the future. Cheers, guys.